Let's talk about Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Best of the Worst. That's the top 3 cards from that set that are seeing play in 1% or less of decks since that set's release. Number 3 is Kairi, the Swirling Sky. For 4 and 2 blue, we get a 6/6 legendary creature, Dragon Spirit, with flying and ward 3. When Kairi, the Swirling Sky dies, choose 1. Return any number of target non-land permanents with total mana value 6 or less to their owner's hands. Mill 6 cards, then return up to 2 instant and or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. Where I think Kairi's being underutilized is as a control finisher for a deck that cares about instant and sorceries. So if you're in a very controlling deck that's casting instant and sorceries a lot, there's only so many creatures you can put in, but I think Kairi is one of the better ones. It's a big body in the air, it's hard to remove, and when they do remove it, they have to think about what you're going to do. Even if you don't have any instants and sorceries in your graveyard at that time, Kairi mills you 6 first and then gets you 2 back. So you are probably going to get at least 1 from that, and probably both. Maybe not the ones you want, so maybe it's better if you have some setup there, but it is a 6 mana card, so it's not coming out super early. The other thing you can do is deal with their board state, or you can even return some of your stuff from the battlefield to your hand if you plan on wiping the next turn since they removed your control finisher. I think Kairi is pretty sweet and underutilized. Number 2 is Ao, the Dawnsky. For 3 and 2 white, we get a 5/4 legendary creature, Dragon Spirit, with flying and vigilance. When Ao the Dawnsky dies, choose 1. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put any number of non-land permanent cards with total mana value 4 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Or put 2 +1/+1 counters on each permanent you control that's a creature or a vehicle. I really like Ao as the top end for a white weenie deck where you're just going super wide with little guys and then pumping them up. Ao can be a very dangerous beater in the air, and it also has vigilance, which I think is quite underrated in the commander format. So it's a good blocker as well. And even if it doesn't have enough toughness to block profitably, you don't really mind because you're getting this leaves the battlefield trigger. The other place I think this could be good is in decks like Teysa, where you're doubling up death triggers, because if you can double up this trigger, it becomes quite powerful. Best of the worst is Containment Construct. For 2 colorless, we get a 2/1 artifact creature, Construct. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn. Containment Construct actually sees play more than the other 2 cards on this list, but it's still in 1% or less because it's colorless. However, even though it's in more decks than those other 2, I still think it's being underutilized. If you're in a deck that's going to be doing any kind of discarding at all, like a graveyard deck where you plan on discarding stuff, maybe a connive deck, if you're conniving a lot, if you're doing any kind of wheel strategy, anything like that, Containment Construct goes really high in value. Obviously, you're not playing it outside of those decks, but there's enough of those decks out there that I think Containment Construct is definitely being underplayed. That's it for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty Best of the Worst. This was my favorite set from last year, so I was really excited to look through this, and I was surprised to see that the cards that we found are being so underutilized. What do you guys think?